All right, so today we're going to be diving into a world of um, love and longing, some pretty intense choices, because we're taking a deep dive into Gabriel Garcia Marquez's Love in the Time of Cholera.
Oh, a story just brimming with passion, intrigue, and that classic Marquez magical realism. It really sticks with you.
It really does. And we've got a lot to unpack. We've got your notes. We've got some critical essays here. Even took a peek at the Wikipedia page. I mean, we've all been there.
Of course, of course. And it's a novel that works on so many levels, right? You've got this grand love story, but then, underneath it all, Marquez is exploring societal expectations, aging, death. What does love really even mean?
Yeah. So let's set the stage for our listener. We're talking late 19th, early 20th century. We're in this bustling Colombian port city. Kind of reminds you of Cartagena, Barranquilla, maybe.
Yeah, picture those steamy streets, that colonial architecture, just this amazing mix of characters. It's a world that's caught between tradition and becoming modern, which I think adds a whole other interesting layer to the story.
Definitely. And into this world steps Florentino Ariza. He is head over heels for the beautiful Fermina Daza. This isn't just a crush. We're talking decades. He is devoted to her.
Decades, yeah. And that's where things get really interesting, right? It's easy to romanticize that kind of unwavering love, but then the novel makes you think. I mean, Florentino has all these affairs while he's claiming to only love Fermina. So is it really love? Is it something else? Makes you wonder.
It really does.
Yeah.
It's like he's almost like trying to distract himself from her not feeling the same way by, finding comfort in other people. But then that brings up the question of, is that fair to those other women? So is it love? Is it obsession? Or is it maybe a little bit of both?
Yeah. And then you have Fermina. She goes a different direction. She chooses a different kind of love, I guess you could say, when she marries Dr. Juvenal Urbino.
Right, which seems like, at first glance, classic case of doing what society expects. Urbino represents stability. He has status.
Yeah.
The whole good on paper type of guy.
Yeah.
Total opposite of Florentino's sort of passionate, chaotic energy.
Right. But Marquez loves to keep us on our toes. Even Urbino, the golden boy doctor, he's got secrets, he's got a past, which we'll get into, don't worry.
Okay, so nobody in this love triangle is exactly who they seem.
Exactly. And that's what makes it so good, right? Marquez is so good at peeling back those layers and showing us their flaws. The messy truth about love and relationships, not your average fairy tale.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
And speaking of messy, we can't forget about the cholera epidemic happening in the background.
Ah, yes, cholera. And it's not just like a background detail in this novel.
Yeah, I was just thinking that. It's contagious, it's disruptive. It just throws everything into chaos, just like the relationships in the book.
Exactly. That's it. The cholera becomes this powerful symbol for how intense their emotions are. How love, desire, heartbreak, it can just turn your whole life upside down, like an epidemic. It's brilliant. Adds a whole other layer to the story.
So you've got this cholera, this literal and metaphorical cholera happening. And we see these characters dealing with their feelings, making choices that change their lives. I think it's so interesting how Marquez writes about time passing and how those years affect Florentino, Fermina, and even Juvenal.
It's true. Time's almost like its own character. You know what I mean? Like it changes how they look, what they can do, how they think about those young loves that felt so powerful at the time.
Yeah. Florentino never really lets go of Fermina, never forgets about her. But then you've got Fermina, who's dealing with a marriage that, sure, it looks good from the outside, but it doesn't seem like she's truly happy.
Yeah, and Marquez is so good at getting into the nitty-gritty of long-term relationships, even the ones society says are great. Fermina and Juvenal have good moments, shared history, but there's also this undercurrent of things they don't say, desires they don't talk about, disappointments.
It's like when we find out that even Dr. Urbino, Mr. Perfect, he had a passionate love affair in his past. It makes it more interesting, but it makes you think about the choices we make, the secrets we keep.
Exactly. Exactly. And all those choices, those secrets, they're part of how these characters face getting older, facing death even, right from those first pages. With Jeremiah de Santamore's suicide, death is kind of hanging over everything.
It's a reminder that time doesn't wait. And even in a story all about love, loss is always there. As the characters age, you see them struggling with their own mortality, things they regret, paths they didn't take.
And when Juvenal dies, even though their marriage wasn't perfect, it changes everything for Fermina. She's a widow, and all of a sudden, after all these years of what-ifs, Florentino comes back. Still in love with her, it seems like.
Which, can be romantic or kind of creepy, depending on how you look at it. Imagine being Fermina. Your husband's gone, you're grieving, and bam, your first love shows up after decades, acting like you can just go back to how things were.
Right. I mean, it shows that love can last, but it makes us ask, can you ever really go back? Fermina's different, Florentino's different, the whole world's different.
And let's not forget, she knows about his um, colorful past. It's a lot to get past if
Yeah.
they're going to be together,
Yeah.
but somehow Marquez brings them together in that final scene that leaves things so open-ended.
Talk
That's
about an ending, right? There they are on that riverboat, seemingly together finally, and Marquez just leaves us hanging. Are they happy? Or is it more complicated with all those missed chances between them?
He leaves it up to us to figure out. It's such a powerful ending.
Yeah.
Leaves you wondering, did they actually get their happy ending, or is there that like bittersweet feeling, that what if thing hanging over them as they sail off?
That's Marquez for you, right? He doesn't give you all the answers. He wants you to sit with it, you know? Figure out your own feelings about love, loss, how time changes things.
Right, like he's saying, here's this story about being human with all the messiness. Now you deal with it.
Exactly. And I think even with that openness of the ending, there's also this really powerful message about how strong love can be. I mean, Florentino waits like a whole lifetime for Fermina, and maybe it doesn't turn out exactly like he pictured when he was young, but there's something so powerful about them finding each other again. They have that shared history.
It makes you think, like, what matters more, the big romantic gestures, saying, I'll love you forever? Or is it more about that deep understanding you only get from going through life together, even when it's hard?
That is the question, isn't it? And I don't think there's one right answer. But for me, I think what gets me is that Marquez is going against that idea that love is only for young people.
Yeah.
Here are these characters, older now, and they're still figuring out desire and longing and maybe even a new start. Shows you that the human art doesn't really age, does it?
It's like, because they're going against what society expects, coming together later in life, they find a different kind of freedom in that, right? A love that's not held back by all the rules and pressures they felt when they were younger.
Yeah, definitely. You really feel that sense of them breaking free in that last scene. Like they're sailing away from all the expectations, all the things from their past. It's hopeful and sad at the same time. You know, life is short, but love can stick around even when everything else changes.
Such a powerful message, gives you a lot to think about. As we leave Florentino and Fermina, sailing off into the sunset, it makes you wonder, what would we wait a lifetime for? How do we handle love and loss and second chances in our own lives?
Big questions, for sure. Love in the time of cholera, it doesn't tell you what to think. But it reminds us that sometimes the best stories are the ones that we keep thinking about long after they're over, the ones that make us look at our own lives and the choices we make.
It's been great diving into this one with you. And to everyone listening, we want to hear from you. What do you think about Florentino and Fermina? Head over to our website or find us on social media. Let's keep this conversation going. And until next time, happy reading.